something more.
They're here.
TVs, monitors, and actually speakers and how they can influence you. Now, some people might say it's mind control. I think it's a little bit more complex than that, but it's sort of in that realm. It's more about emotion control, more sort of a manipulation of how you feel, maybe how you think, maybe your attitude in some respects. Also putting you into an alpha state, you know, getting you into that position to where they can, in a sense, program your subconscious mind. Cell phone towers, TVs, monitors, and even speakers. I haven't seen many people talk about the speaker. And I'm going to show you some patents here in a minute that are pretty disturbing. Now, of course, one of these patents has been circulated for a while, and I kind of get the impression from some of the people who do videos on this that they don't really investigate this too much. And they sort of just kind of go slightly conspiratorial with it, maybe not spending enough time researching it to really find the truth, to dig into this, to figure out really what is going on. And being a mechanical engineer, I'm curious about sort of the science behind this. These electromagnetic fields, the frequencies that they emit with these cell phone towers, and sort of the whole overall arching agenda maybe with this, and also which devices do what. You know, what does a cell phone do? What does a TV do? What does the monitor do? And like I said, I hadn't even heard anybody speak about this patent that I found, which is kind of interesting as well. Let me show you this. This is something I hadn't seen anybody really talk about, but it's in the same realm. It's another patent. Subliminal acoustic manipulation of the nervous system. It's talking about atmospheric acoustic pulses at certain frequencies can influence sort of your attitude, sort of your feelings of excitement or relaxation, depending on what the acoustic frequency is. So what I found very interesting when I was looking at this was one of the pictures, which happens to look just like a speaker. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a speaker. It's not rocket science, right? But it's interesting, of course, people talk about certain frequencies that music is set to and how it actually disrupts people and causes them to get into a frenzy. We see that with certain types of heavy metal, and of course they mix in it Satanism or idolatry or rebellion against God often. And you see up here in this patent, it talks about even being excited sexually from it, just depending on the frequency. There's different frequencies, right? So this was just one of the patents. There's actually multiple I was looking at, and this is the one that's really famous. Everybody talks about, well, not everybody, but a few people have talked about at length here on YouTube. And perhaps you haven't even seen this one, but this one is about manipulation of electromagnetic fields with monitors or TVs. And a few people have done videos on this. Richard from Boston was one of them, and there's others as well. But I was kind of skeptical on some of the conclusions people make, and I just wanted to investigate it for myself to see what I really thought from a scientific perspective, what's really going on here. And you can see obviously with the computer and the monitor, which you're probably potentially looking at one of these right now, or perhaps you're looking at your tablet or your cell phone, who knows, right? But who is it to say that obviously this wouldn't work the same exact way, because it has to do with pulses, image pulses, when it comes to how they display on the screen, whether it be your tablet, cell phone, or monitor, or TV. Okay, and obviously we know that they are doing this, and they were even doing this early on, because even with the national anthem, I've shown footage of this, where they had MK Ultra even written subliminally behind the national anthem itself. They had sort of mind control effects that they were doing even back then, where your subliminal mind would see these words that were trailing behind the real words, but your conscious mind would not see it, because your subconscious is far more a part of you than your conscious. Your conscious is something that takes sort of a lot of work to make it do stuff. When it comes to something like talent or skill, most of that is subliminal, okay? But if it's something you're learning for the first time, that's more conscious based. And of course, these TVs put you into this state, like we read over here, of relaxation and drowsiness to put you, beta alpha state, and then that way you can be controlled through whatever they put in the programming, whether it be subliminally or even just directly. So if you're watching the TV or you're watching videos on YouTube, for example, potentially, after a certain amount of time, you reach this certain state, alpha states. And generally speaking, it'd probably be more so with the TV because people like to watch it while they're in bed or something. And it would put you in this relaxation, lower state to where your mind is more free to be programmed. And of course, if they have things hidden in the broadcast, they're clearly programming your mind. Now, so the mind control would be more so something that was being done through TVs and monitors, tablets, and cell phones. With music, with audio, like we see with this subliminal acoustic manipulation, we're talking about your emotions more so, and just your temperament being manipulated through music. Relaxation, sexual excitement. It can even cause you to be angry in some respects, disorientation even. With these certain, and you'll notice at some of these concerts they have these massive speakers, and obviously, as you can imagine, that would even have a huger impact on you. And we're talking stimuli on your skin and on your head. So this is what we're talking. We're talking about your sensory being manipulated by acoustic waves. And it sounds kind of strange. You would think, oh, it's just the music making me want to be this way. No, it's actually the wave, the frequency of the waves. And it's the same as the case with this, but in this way, a lot of people are talking about how somebody wants to hypnotize you. They'll take a watch and have it swing back and forth in front of you, or they'll do something that's sort of repetitive. And that's what we're seeing with this one, with the monitor, is that if they put it at a certain pulse, the lighting of whatever object on the screen, it can put you in sort of a trance, is kind of the idea. It put you in that state to where they can actually program you. So this isn't something that's fiction. I mean, I was slightly skeptical of some of this. I already knew some of it was true, obviously. I've done videos on this, but some of this I was kind of like, let's just look at the science of this. Let's just analyze this, what's really going on here. And of course, this guy, from what I understand, he worked for the military, because one of his patents is a naval application, and some are saying he worked for DARPA. I can't, I haven't looked enough to know whether or not this guy works for DARPA, but we do know that he's worked for government organizations based on some of the patents themselves. Okay, so, and there's other patents as well. Now this is not one he put out. These are different inventors here, and they work for Raytheon Company, which does a lot of contract work for the government. I know this from just investigating the company back when I was a mechanical engineer, because I wanted to look for a job, obviously, and I was looking at different companies. But this one, I'm not sure if we can attach this to cell phone towers. They're claiming that it attaches to cell phone towers. And there is some I guess you could say, pieces of evidence that we can look at, whether or not this actually is something they're doing with cell phone towers, which is what some are thinking. Because you do have a lot of cell phone towers, and you'd be amazed how many are in your area. Okay, this here is sort of like more of a weaponized type of thing here. Frequency directed energy. I don't know if this is something. This might be something related, but I have a hard time believing this is something, because this is more a weaponized thing here, which could be the case in some. Maybe certain towers are like this. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I would think it would be something on a lower scale that they would use if they were going to do something like that. Okay, I wouldn't think it'd be something as maybe strong, because what we're talking about here is something that really can mess up stuff. We're not talking about something simple here. We're talking about high energy damage here. Okay, we're not talking about like, you know, messing with your thoughts or something like that. We're talking about like literal weapon here. So this is something I think would be maybe related to some of what people are postulating, and some of the evidences that kind of go with it. I'll get to this one in a second here because this is kind of interesting as well. That's pretty interesting. We'll get to that in a second. And this is actually from Archive because it's been deleted from Navy.mil's website. But this Bushnell guy is the one who also wrote the Future Strategic Issues of Warfare with NASA. Okay? And I didn't want to lose my page here. But it's the exact same guy who wrote this PowerPoint presentation, and it reads like a conspiracy theorist. I mean, they tell us that we are talking crazy when we talk about these topics, but they themselves are talking about the exact same thing. So that would show you maybe you're not so crazy. And when we go over this in a second, you'll realize you aren't crazy. Okay? But I wanted to point out first, where did it go? I thought this was really interesting. I remember back in even 2001, my friend talking to me, and one of my friends, he's a mechanical engineer as well, and he's actually had security clearance, decently high security clearance, because he's worked for some companies that do projects, military projects. He doesn't work for those companies anymore, but I don't want to get into what companies they are specifically. But he was talking about how when he was actually interviewed for a job, at the CIA, and he was telling me about at the time he was single, he was young, they were trying to get him right out of college, and he really wasn't, I guess in the end he wasn't really interested, but he was telling me about some of the stuff they were telling him about, having very microscopic nanobots even back in 2001. And this here is something different. This is smart dust particles. Okay. But this is very interesting as well because it's a geolocation type of device, and look how big it is. We're talking something that looks like dust. Okay, so they use this actually on ants to track the movement of ants. So you can imagine if you just had one of these dust particles on you, they could actually track where you're at. It's pretty crazy. Smart, and so there are things that you are not aware of. I mean, he's also told me about when he was working for this company that did weapons for the military. He was telling me some crazy things that they were designing. I'm not going to get into all of them here. Maybe I'll do it on another video, but it was stuff that was pretty, it will blow your mind. Okay. And I'm not sure if he was even supposed to talk to me about it, but he was. And he doesn't work for those companies anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter at this point. But the Smart Dust device contains the following components: sensors, active optical transmission using laser diode, passive optical transmission, optical receiver, analog, signal processing, power source. So we're talking about something as a power source, signal processing, and we're talking something the size of a piece of dust. You know, smaller than a grain, of sand. Soldier wearable shooter localization system is used in places where wired sensors are not useful, such as rotating machines and wind tunnels, to get patterns of movement. Smaller size is of dust particles, light in weight. Farmers, due to fertilization management, helps them in reducing time, and just it's a lot of crazy stuff. So you can see how this could be used and how technology is so advanced that we're not even aware of a lot of this stuff. But with these cell phone towers, the fact that, okay, let's go back to this. This guy is talking like a conspiracy theorist, and he's not. That's the crazy part. Okay, so we're talking about NASA talking about future scenarios, and it reads just like something I talk about on video. Okay, right here, selective anti-personnel RF MW towers. And we're talking about typical scenario takedown of US by 10 people. So they're talking about like various scenarios. Tele-everything, US just one of the crowd economically, warfare on the cheap, many potential peers, warfare increasingly robotic, survival, affordable power. We're talking about 2025 here. Via deep water subs and blast wave accelerators. Kona's logistics defense increasingly worrisome. It will be soon possible to connect human brain cells to silicon chips. Due to IT, and this is stuff I've talked about. Due to IT technology, we will witness the death of distance. More than 2/3 of the satellites are foreign-owned. Large-scale missile attacks will be able to overwhelm defensive systems. Development of genetically engineered pathogens that will thwart our biodetection defense measure cycles. Machines as creative, smart as humans. Robots the norm. This is stuff I've talked about multiple times recently. Binary bio into nations agricultural food distribution system. Next level concern, ubiquitous, cheap, micro to nano everything. I was telling you back in 2001 they had, nanobots that were about the size of a grain of salt. Sensors, munitions, weapons, swarms, hordes. So we're talking about on a worldwide level, other countries are going to catch up to where the America already is with all this technology. Battlefield attrition, CNN syndrome forces. So we're talking, you can see how it's so important for them to control the narrative. You see how this is? Where we're going, they have to have some sort of control over this chaos as they see it, right? They see it as chaos. And it is if things like this happen, robots is smarter than humans, start to take jobs from Americans and stuff, which, this is crazy stuff. It sounds crazy, but this is NASA and these people talking about the same stuff we talk about. Okay? Same exact stuff. So, would it be in their best interest to somehow control the populations with these things? It would make sense, to keep them sort of under control. And this is kind of where I'm thinking it's been for a long time. And it is curious why people are so addicted to cell phones and such. You see what I'm getting at? There's a lot of things going on here that sort of boggle the mind. I mean, just look at that picture. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Gee, that looks familiar. Where have I seen that before? Oh, I'm using one right now. So, I mean, this is. I thought it was a very interesting topic to do and cover all these type of things. It's just amazing, just how much control they have using these type of devices. And I do actually think that these cell phone towers, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, I think some of them do take some of these type of devices and use them to influence people's moods and perhaps maybe just for a calming effect. I mean, seriously, a lot of people are thinking, well, it could be like weaponized and targeting one person and make them go crazy or something. And I'm sure there are things like that, and maybe they do use them in certain situations. I don't know. But I don't think it's something they're using everywhere. That just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to me that if they were going to try to control society with something like this, and they had some sort of patent for electric fields of frequencies, that they would use it to calm people, maybe get them to somehow not think about certain things, put them in a mood to where they're not, they're more passive and they're not thinking independently, stuff like that. Maybe that makes more sense to me to do on a population level than to worry about one person and target him, make him go crazy or something like that, which is a lot of what some of these videos talk about.